What is up, y'all? It is Andy with Nerds on the Run, and today I am going to be bringing you some thoughts about the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer that was dropped at the end of the Nintendo Direct. I was a huge fan of Breath of the Wild. You know, you don't get trophies for Nintendo games, but I pretty much did everything except for upgrading a couple of the for those of you that know the grind that is correct collecting star pieces, pretty much did everything except for the star piece grind, and I even did half of that. I think you need like 80 some star pieces or something like that to fully upgrade every outfit. I pretty much got every last drop out of that game. You know, got through master mode with the trials, all the DLC. I love Breath of the Wild like so many of you, like so many of us do. And the fact that the only E3 prediction, pipe dream prediction, whatever you want to call it, that I really had was kind of a Majora's Mask remake, or excuse me, a Majora's Mask asset reuse or engine reuse, a la Breath of the Wild 2, and I can't believe it's coming true. So I'm so happy. I am thinking about that trailer they cut together, and it was really cut together in a clever way. You know, in my initial reactions and reporting on E3, just in our last few video series here, I mistakenly thought that they were under Hyrule Castle, but upon kind of examining things closer, they had this pack animal. Zelda and Link had this pack animal with them, and their traveling cloaks on and stuff. So I think they actually went somewhere else. Now, most of this video is just going to be kind of wild speculation. I did try to gather as much evidence from the trailer as I could. Zelda was really kind of pushed as this sort of super intelligent, research savvy person in her life before she was trapped as a vessel to protect the world from Ganon, seal him up, Calamity Ganon. And I think maybe Zelda's going to continue her research and find out that there was sort of a source of the malice, in kind of poking and prodding the fence to find the source of how did Calamity Ganon exploit the Sheikah defenses and turn them to his side. I think in her research to do that, she's going to find out that there's sort of a source for this malice, a source for the malice that was Calamity Ganon, that was the demise of Hyrule, and I didn't mean that in a punny way. I mean that demise, the demon, of course, that perpetuates the propagation of evil in Ganondorf, which we learned back in the old lore of Skyward Sword. So they they travel to another part of the kingdom, perhaps, or somewhere outside the kingdom, to find this crypt of Ganondorf. And the evidence that it's him, besides that there being a cave painting kind of on the wall of a man that looks like Ganondorf with a trident, which is Ganon's weapon. If you actually look at the corpse that they find, the mummified figure that they find, I mean, his ears, and now granted, this is the first time we would see him in this art style, but if you look across art styles, the man has some pretty, and even art styles within Super Smash Bros. For more evidence. Some of his really telling features, besides the obvious ones, are his ears, his bone structure, his kind of wider nose bridge, the gem and ornamentation that he has on his head. This one's obviously like super lit up and stuff, which is different. There's a Gerudo symbol, the kind of outward-facing parentheses with the dots on either side of it. There's a Gerudo symbol on the throne that he is set upon, and he is the king of the Gerudo, in the old lore. He's got the long red hair, kind of that creepy mummified again, kind of like the Sheikah mummies. Their hair never stops. A lot of them have long white hair. The Yiga that worshipped Ganon were an offshoot, sort of of the Sheikah tribe. So who's to say they don't have the same kind of mummifying strategies or mummifying magics to preserve the revered ones. In this case, their only revered one, Ganondorf. It seems pretty clear that it was him. They find him. He awakens. There's this goofy hand, which in my E3 reporting, I suggested maybe has something to do with the Twilight Realm, kind of from the coloration, kind of from the noises, the sort of synthy music. I don't know that it was Twilight, but I do know that this hand, whether it was Twilight or whether it was some transcendent. The Sheikah are all kind of gone from our mortal plane. In this version of Hyrule. So maybe this is some sort of like living Sheikah or something that kind of like Zelda's counterpart has been sort of holding Ganondorf, in his mortal form at least in its place, kind of to keep him from rising into power or accessing his power. Maybe it was a kind of a Twilight, like a Zant or a descendant of Zant, a Twilight usurper that's trying to resurrect him. It could have been the cause of. So whether that hand was the cause of the malice pouring everywhere, or whether the hand was preventing it, and somehow Link and Zelda's Triforces coming near the resting place of the Triforce of Power, maybe that was sort of what caused it. But in any case, the malice kind of overflows and attacks Hyrule Castle, or perhaps awakens Ganon, and he accesses power and attacks the castle, lifts it into the sky. That's pretty much all the evidence we get. And even some of the things I said were speculation or conjecture from the lore that has been presented from past games or this game. So settings and gameplay. Settings and gameplay are things that I would really, really like to talk about. If you do like these kinds of conversations, if you do want to participate in these conversations, please leave a comment below. Like the video if you like speculating about Zelda and where the Zelda franchise is going to go. And, consider subscribing if you want to participate where the channel's going, and ringing the bell if you want to be notified of when we are putting videos up so that you can participate in said discussions. I think the hand that was imprisoning him, or whatever it was doing, or that was awakening him, one possibility is that we do see a quick snapshot of this hand, a flash of light, and a fully fleshed musculature silhouette of Ganondorf on the back wall. Whether that was a memory from the past, or whether that was the power of him awakening, or whatever. This hand clearly, after this room starts to crumble, looks like Link goes to catch Zelda, and grasp her, and then this hand grasps Link's forearm to keep him from falling. Or I'm assuming it has good intentions, but maybe it's just grabbing onto him in a separate shot. Maybe some possibilities include that if this hand was imprisoning Ganondorf, maybe the hand grabbing onto Link accidentally imprisons him, and we get to play as Zelda. That would be kind of a way different direction. That certainly would lengthen the development time, giving a whole new power sets and stuff like that, because maybe that would be more like mage-like combat with her awakened, stuff, her awakened access to the sacred power. Probably more likely, though, we're going to get to still play as Link, and maybe he's going to have a glowy blue right hand, or left hand, I guess. Maybe he's going to have a glowy blue hand, and this will kind of reset him somehow, so he doesn't have all of his upgrades from Breath of the Wild, but he gains access to some kind of new abilities. Maybe the Sheikah Slate gets destroyed in all this hubbub, and but now he's got some kind of new juju that he uses to, to either conjure spells or form attacks, or interact with the environment, or whatever. So some possible different settings might include the castle. It could be in Hyrule again, but the castle could be moved, and maybe we're kind of on a different. Maybe there's some overlap with the old map, but we're kind of on a different part of Hyrule. Like maybe we're just over some of those mountains across. Along the northern and I believe the western edges of the map, there are like kind of some river gorges and stuff. Maybe just on the other side of those, we could kind of see a continuation of the land. Maybe it's on the exact same map, but it's kind of without the resurrection, or excuse me, without the malice contained anymore. Maybe we get like a dark world kind of version of Hyrule, kind of a not literally like the dark world, like the sacred realm tainted by Ganon's wishes and blah 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 from the hero downfall timeline, but more like just like a dark world-esque sort of thematically darker. So, clearly by the trailer, it's obviously thematically darker, but the world is like tainted and not filled with monsters by the power of this blood moon and stuff, but like totally corrupted to the point where maybe even the plant and animal life will become creepy. Maybe even the villages will become more like Redead's, picture kind of Ocarina of Time's future, sort of situation. So we could get a total kind of dark world version of the kingdom. I think this idea sounds really appealing to me, though I wouldn't mind if the castle was moved to another place, maybe whatever land they find Ganondorf's crypt in. Maybe he brings the castle to him to set up shop there, and then the game kind of takes place in that surrounding land, wherever that might be. These are just a couple ideas, but clearly with the darker tone and without the option to resurrect himself and reincarnate over time because of what the events of Breath of the Wild 1. Hopefully we get to see kind of Ganondorf at his most ruthless, most desperate, and we could kind of have some really challenging gameplay. Maybe they're kind of going to assume, hey, Breath of the Wild was essentially the cost of entry. Wasn't by any means the easiest of games, and certainly on Master Mode it had its difficulties. Artificially inflated, that's a whole nother discussion, but difficult nonetheless, but not nearly as difficult as some of the games on the market today. Maybe if they're really looking to make a game on the level of difficulty as some of the many games that have been inspired by the Zelda franchise, the Souls series and whatever, maybe we'll get some really difficult situations coming up in this game, and this will kind of assume that you'll have had to mastered Breath of the Wild before buying into this game. So that would be really cool if this was a really kind of a challenging game that started from out the gate, similar to Breath of the Wild, having a little bit of a interesting tutorial to kind of get used to the new physics, the new Sheikah tools. There might be some kind of situation, and then it's like, off to the races. Go challenge Ganon if you want, right out the bat. I would love a similar structure to this game. With the caveat that I hope that they do pull a little bit more narrative into it, kind of building upon what almost zero narrative existed in Breath of the Wild. I'd love if they put some more narrative in it, and I would really love also if they would maybe utilize either some different dungeon design, so in the sense that the shrines, maybe, I did mention something like this I believe in one of my past videos, but that the shrines would, if they do continue the shrine structure, that kind of geographically, the lava area shrines are all very, lava oriented, stone oriented. The forest shrines are very ivy oriented, like even on the insides, you know what I mean? Whatever, the water shrines are very, water and ice oriented and stuff like that. So that at least each shrine kind of has the thematic elements of the old regional temples. Obviously, I would love it if I wouldn't mind if they just took a bunch of shrine rooms similar in design, kind of glued them all together in a thoughtful way, and made something that was halfway between the old dungeons and the new shrines. I could understand why that would, if each room had as thoughtful puzzles as the shrines did, it would be pretty long to get through those dungeons, but then you maybe wouldn't have to have as many of them. I know, of course, many people are asking for a return to typical dungeons, which, based on what they did with the Fantastic Beasts, based on what they did with the Champions Beasts, I think that there is definitely some drawbacks to their full dungeon design in this engine. They were cool, but they all aesthetically looked very samey. Some of the puzzles were kind of so-so, not too difficult. So I would rather almost see kind of just like shrine type rooms kind of glued together, or if they're going to do a tightly themed dungeon, then to maybe make, take their time and make lots of them. I'm hoping, even though I'd love to play this game soon, I'm hoping this game is, by the look of it, I'm probably correct, a ways off. And then we can kind of make sure that if it does have dungeon content, it's very full, very complete dungeon content. If it is shrine content, maybe there's more diversity, between shrines, among shrines, that sort of thing. So I do apologize for a little bit of the jiggle here. I set up shop pretty quickly, but I wanted to get these thoughts out to you all, see what you think, and hopefully whatever Breath of the Wild 2 ends up being called, we can really have some interesting discourse, and I'm sure the many years, or at least few years here, leading up to that game. So this has been Andy with Nerds on the Run. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends if you're interested in joining our conversations. And I hope you have a good day. Take care.